Hey, what up, squad? Hopefully, everybody's having a great day today. Welcome to the Adapt session where we have intrinsic convos on mindset, exercise, and life's ever changing experiences with your hosts, Joe and
Mondo, welcome to Adapt Session Monday, a special Adapt Session Monday. What's going on with us, Joe? New episode releases 3 weeks in a row. I guess we're feeling generous, right?
Nah, we just on it, bro. That's what it is.
What?
We just on it.
What?
We just on it.
For those who was wondering, man, you watching the show. You guys are watching the video. You guys will see I'm wearing the Stone Cold Steve Austin what shirt.
That's clean shirt, bro.
That is a clean shirt. And people are wondering, like, man, how can we watch that if we haven't uploaded the videos on Instagram the last few weeks? That's because we have a YouTube page now, you guys.
Let them know.
If you want to watch the full length videos, it's on YouTube.
What's
Follow
the
us,
YouTube page called, Armando?
adapt.session. That's the page. You'll see our logo there. You'll see that big purple and teal A.
Follow us, guys. Give us a follow, subscribe, and
All the
click
pages.
on the alert so you get alert anytime we post a new one.
Absolutely. Tap that little bell so you get an update when the new videos come out.
Yeah, you heard them.
Man, how exciting is that? Huh? We started this podcast last year on Instagram, not knowing if we're going to get on a platform to do an audio version. Now we're on multiple audio platforms, including your favorites like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor. Thank you, Anchor.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're on YouTube. The boys are moving up. What do you think about that, JoJo?
I'm pretty excited about it. It's cool. I wouldn't say it's any different than what we've been doing. We've already been releasing videos on IG, but it's cool that we got a YouTube page and where people could go directly to watch our videos, clips. Probably have some bonus content coming up pretty soon in the future. But yeah, you guys give us a follow.
And if you guys
Adapt
really want to know that
session
answer,
on YouTube.
and you heard him, you said maybe. If you guys really want to know that answer, hit that subscribe button, tap the bell. You never know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
No one expected 3 episodes in a row of the Adapt Session, 3 Adapt Session Mondays on a row.
We just had some ideas, so we needed to get those out.
Absolutely. And we sit here recording this on Super Bowl Sunday. One person's going to win, the other person's going to experience heartbreak.
I wonder who y'all going for. Who you're going for? The Chiefs? Y'all going for the Bucks? It's gonna be an interesting game.
We'll jot that question in the story today.
Let us
And
know.
for those, people are wondering why heartbreaks, right? Like why are Armando and Joe talking about heartbreaks?
Well, I don't think they knew until you just mentioned it right now.
Well, that's a good point, but that's besides the point. You
So Armando's referring to this particular episode that we're about to film. It's a sports session one, but we're talking about heartbreaks. Sport heartbreaks any in any type of sport, any franchise, any team. A lot of them, doesn't matter what sport you're in, have fell short of the ultimate goal, and some of them have fell short in a not so flattering way. So that's what we're here to talk about today.
that's such an understatement when you think about it too. And
Hmm.
and and why the timing of the heartbreak? Well, it's Valentine's Day next week. I know what you're thinking, Mondo, Joe. Why are you guys so negative? Why are you talking about this on Valentine's Day? That day is about love. Well, I got news for you guys. If you guys are talking about Valentine's Day as the only day that you guys love, then y'all tripping. What about the other 365 days of the year or 364 if it's not a leap year?
Yeah, I mean, speaking of Valentine's Day, I like Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day is cool, I guess. It's like a special day. You and your, partner can go on a nice date, whatever. You could do something special for the other person. It's not even just for your partner. You could do that for like your mom, whatever, anybody, right?
Yeah, but the point is, you don't love somebody just that day, right?
Yeah, it just becomes so commercialized. It's like another Christmas or like a Black Friday kind of.
Yeah, it's just another thing to capitalize, really.
Hmm.
And truth be told, like that's the reason why we decided to do this on the with the Valentine's Day coming up. It only made sense. And honestly, it's a throw, and it's kind of a callback to sports session too, because when we were coming up with the run sheet, we were actually going to discuss this, but it took so long. And if you guys remember, that episode was almost 2 hours long. If we actually did this portion as well, it probably would have been 3 or 4 hours. That would have been a little too long.
Would have been pretty long, so we needed to break it up into a couple episodes. Plus, as like Armando mentioned, with us talking about Valentine's Day, well, sometimes people get their heart broken on Valentine's Day. And for those sports fans that we got out there that love their teams, you guys probably got in your hearts broken once or twice in your lifetime, watching your team get really close to that championship, get deep in the playoffs, and then they take a horrible fall. I mean, I know I got four teams that have done that, so I know what that feels like.
Yeah, so we have so with that also being said, just to add to what Joe was saying, we will not just be making fun of other people's teams. We'll be making fun of our own teams as well. So Joe, you ready to talk shit about these teams?
Let's do it, man.
So let's break down what a heartbreak or is, right? It's a collapse or a meltdown, or just in some ways, maybe just the fact that you have a team that just cannot compete to save their lives. But we're
Well,
mostly going to focus on playoff teams this time, okay?
yeah, that's essentially what I was gonna say. Or it's gonna be teams that do play well, and then for whatever reason they make it to the big stage, or a round or two away from the championship game, so on and so forth, and they don't play well, and they end up getting killed, or they're playing well at the beginning and then they just have like a second half, just like Armando called it, a collapse where they're just not competing anymore. It kind of seems like they gave up or they're not giving it their all. It's kind of bizarre in the sports world, honestly.
Yeah,
Like when you see
yes.
when you see these kind of things happen, right?
And it is. It's bizarre, and it sounds repetitive, but it is heartbreaking.
If you're a fan of that team, and sometimes even it's heartbreaking if you're not a fan of that team. I've seen plenty of teams make it deep in the playoffs where I'm like, oh, it looks like they're doing really good. I might not be a fan of them, but I'm kind of rooting for them. Like that team's pulling it together. Then all of a sudden, it's like, whoa, where'd y'all go? What happened to that play from last week? You
Oh
make it
yeah,
to a new playoff game and you ain't playing good no more.
and sometimes they 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 have such a such a hard such a gut wrenching loss.
Yeah,
Their team doesn't make the postseason for a long periods of time.
yeah. It's kind of like it messes with like the team's like character or like morale after that going forward like the next couple years, and then
Yeah,
they can't do anything. It's crazy.
even if they change their regimes, their coaching regimes, and their front office regimes, it just lingers with the franchise. It's like, man, we can't get over this loss. We can't get over this. What happened back then? And we got some examples coming up. And so we talked about the playoff utility. So there's some teams that have consistently made the playoffs and they're always in the playoff hunt. They're always contending, right? But for whatever reason, whenever in baseball, whenever October arrives, they're gone. Whenever January in football, whenever January arrives, they completely disappear. Or whenever April or May come in basketball, they completely disappear. They're good at making the playoffs, but as far as playing in the playoffs, they're completely futile. They just have no. They're just terrible. And there's some examples of these teams, and we're gonna one of them that stand out to me and Joe right off the bat were the Philadelphia Eagles
Mm, for a long time.
for a long time. Like and 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 they were able to experience the Super Bowl championship a couple of years ago, but before that they were the poster boy of it's better to miss the playoffs than to consistently be in the playoffs and get your heart broken every year.
They got so close so many years before they actually won the big game. Um, the one that stands out to me the most is just because one of my favorite players was on that team, To.
Yeah,
When he was on their team, and this dude, I can't remember if he had like a fractured ankle, a broken ankle, something like that.
something
Like,
like that. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it was like a severe injury. He wasn't supposed to be playing, and this dude was like, "No, I'm gonna get back in the game." And Donovan McNabb and him connected. That was like a super wide receiver and super quarterback duo. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Um, and To was just putting it down, man, catching these passes because Donovan McNabb was under pressure like the whole damn game, and then so he was kind of just launching it towards his wide receivers, and To was making these crazy catches on like a broken or fractured ankle. Like I said, I can't remember. Like this dude gave it his all, bro. And not only that, but prior to To being on the Eagles were consistently deep in the NFL playoffs, and for whatever reason, these guys just could not win it, man. They couldn't win it. And that was probably like the worst heartbreak that I remember because I wanted the Eagles to win because Donovan McNabb was one of my favorite quarterbacks and To was my favorite wideout. So I wanted them to win it. And I really like Andy Reid. Um, I just like him as a coach. It seems anytime he did his interviews, it seemed like he was like a really humble person, you know? Like he really, like all his players always talk good about him. I haven't heard any players talk bad about him except To when he had his little tantrum. But
Yeah.
anyway, but everybody else really liked him, right? Everybody else like loved that dude. Um, and obviously moving forward, he won the championship last year with the Chiefs, but that was another heartbreak because I'm a Niner fan. But we'll talk about that later. But yeah, man, I mean, I just really wanted them to win, dude, and they just couldn't win that game. I really wanted them to win that Super Bowl. I don't even remember who they were playing, but they lost. And then prior to that, as I said, deep in the playoffs,
They lost to the Patriots.
oh, there you go. They just couldn't win, dude. They just couldn't win, and it was crazy. It was kind of like psychologically, and this is going to be a little reference to our next episode, by the way. Psychologically, it just like really messed up the team for whatever. Like they felt like it just seemed like they felt when they got under those bright lights and on that big stage, like, all right, here's a championship. We're right here. They just couldn't pull the trigger, man.
And do you remember was it 2001 or was it 2002 when the Buccaneers won?
They beat the Raiders in 2001, I believe.
One of those years. Well,
Yeah.
that year was like,
Wait, it is 202. You're right. It's 202. 2000.
so that year was tailor made for the Eagles to win. Like they were at home, frigid temperatures. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers supposedly did not do well in cold weather. It was tailor made for them, and they lost.
You know what I never got about stuff like that? Like, oh, this team is from this part of the country where the weather's nice or humid, whatever, and then they're gonna go play somewhere cold and they don't do well or supposedly don't do well
Yeah,
just because the team is called, I'm gonna go with the Tampa Bay Bucks, right?
yeah.
Or the opposite, you got like Green Bay Packers who don't play well in humidity. It like how does that even make sense? Just because the teams are from that city when all these players are from all over the country, that doesn't make any sense to me. Some of these players could have grew up in the opposite, you know what I'm saying, in the
Yeah,
opposite
I
like
agree.
cultures. That don't make no sense, but all right.
And it's one of those. It's just one of those things. Like I guess in some cases those analytics are correct. Like, but sometimes I think people look too much into that.
Yeah,
I
that,
like the time zone type of thing. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Oh, the East Coast time zone is so hard. I'm like, well, some people are from the East Coast, so I mean, it's not exactly too difficult for them to adapt.
Yeah, it's not that hard. And I mean, unless you haven't been there in like years, like that's different. Like I could see that. You probably got used to
Yeah,
being 3 hours behind or whatever if
yeah,
you're on.
that's one thing. Like, but I think that like the Eagles were like the poster boy for that. Another one was the in baseball and local areas. Some A's fans are gonna be like, "Man, you're picking on the A's." Like, no, that's not it. The A's were another example at the Oakland Athletics
Just talk, bro. Just talk.
because so one of the favorite things that the A's fans love to talk about is we won the '89 World Series. What they don't like to talk about is what happened after they won the '89 World Series.
Yeah, that was like the only one. Nah, I mean, I know they had some prior to that, but you know what I mean. The only one then, and then after that, I mean,
They haven't done anything since. They've
that's what you get Moneyball from. But they, they put together some good teams, but they can't keep those good teams together because they don't want to pay their players.
and Joe's on a good one today. It's gonna
Just
be a hard one
saying,
today. I can already tell, and I'm loving it.
some franchises just suck, bro. Like you can't have your team be good if you're not gonna pull some money out to pay your players. They always get good, really good teams, and they don't want to pay their players. So the next year they get traded, or players want to be traded, players want to go into free agency. It's like I ain't gonna work for free.
My thing is, I don't like the. My thing is, don't blame another franchise for the fact that you don't want to pay your players.
Who's blaming another franchise? This is something.
Some A's fans like to blame the Giants for the fact that the A's don't like to
Oh, but
pay
that's
out
the,
the money.
that's the fans though. Fans don't know anything. They don't know shit.
Sometimes the front office of the A's have done that too. Sometimes Billy Bean has done like, oh well, the Giants let us go to San Jose, we'd be able to pay our players.
Please stop.
It's like no, it's like
You got the whole East Bay. What does going to San Jose have to do with anything? I mean, plus the A's got fans in San Jose. Yeah, they got fans all over. So what's their excuse?
here's the thing. One of the things that the A's and the A's fans love to say is that well, if it the A's gave you guys the territorial rights back in the 80s or the 90s so you guys can move there. If it wasn't for the fact that they gave you the territorial rights, we wouldn't you guys wouldn't be here.
Who
Yeah.
gave the A's territorial rights?
No, the A's gave the Giants the territorial rights to San Jose back in the 90s when they were trying to build a stadium. So
Gotcha.
so they love to mention that. But the thing is, if it was so the reason why they gave it to them back in the day was because there was no value to the territorial rights to San Jose.
Oh, and now they want it because there's value. Yeah.
Now they want it because there's value because the Giants have built the equity there. They put the minor league team over there. They created so now it's become
That's
most of the
big
Giants
giant.
territory. So that's where it falls, right? Like, and we're not trying to jump on the A's. It's just it's a weak argument to say that oh, it's because of another franchise that we can't do this. It's like no.
Well, actually, you're not jumping on the A's. You're just stating some facts here, which may have a little something to do with the A's organization not being able to farm their players really well and then build a team and be able to pay their players. So it's actually the fault of the A's organization why they can't do that.
And I think that, and honestly, I think that there's because I think they're great at like drafting. I think they always have prospects coming up, but the thing is that
Yeah.
always, but the thing is that how does that not happen when you're always trading away your top stars?
Yeah, exactly.
So are they great? Yes, they can be great. But the thing is that like imagine what would happen if they actually invested more in the team.
That's the problem. They're trying to get the most for nothing. You know what I'm saying? They're trying to get the most for like that. You're only gonna do so well. You're only gonna go so far like that. Eventually, you're gonna have to really invest into what you're trying to build, just like anybody would, with any part of their life. You're gonna have to invest time, resources in order to make that work, and they don't want to do that.
And we're gonna get more into the real details later on in terms of like what it is. But the A's have gone like the A's. We'll be honest. We're Giants fans, and we'll admit that the A's have made the playoffs more than the Giants in the last 20 years. But they haven't had the success the Giants have had. There's a
Can't pull the trigger, man.
but it's one of those things where like they struggle, and they the first round, man, they will pull off some of the most boneheaded plays, and they lose a heartbreak a lot of times to the point where I have friends who are A's fans, and they're like, yeah, we made the playoffs, but I'll ask them, you guys made the playoffs, what you guys think we're gonna do? And they'll sit there and look at me straight in the eye, and they'll say, we're gonna go home.
Mm.
And that's how and I'm like, what do you mean we're gonna go home? I was like, wait, you think that you guys are gonna take it all? And he's like, no, we're gonna go home. He's like, and he goes, we're gonna we're gonna waste opportunities, or we're either gonna waste opportunities, or we're gonna take a 2-0 lead in the first round, and then we're gonna give it up. What are the two? Because that's what they've done the last 20, 30 years. And
Probably not by design, but
probably not by design, but that's what they've done. So there's some teams that like, but these are just one of those teams that have in the past they have a history of championship pedigree. So
mhm.
to them, they deserve that that respect. However, you can't say that about all the teams that have gone to the playoff consistently because some of them didn't have that championship. The Eagles didn't have that championship.
The Eagles didn't
Bills,
have.
unfortunately, and the Bills, unfortunately, don't have that championship anymore. Don't have that championship still. Another
Mm.
team that was like that too, and we'll get more into it as we go on. The Utah Jazz.
You
For
know
you,
what?
you have the
Since we're switching sports, another one that's recently been like that. I mean, we're gonna focus on the Jazz, but just like a admirable mention. I don't know if that's actually admirable, is considering what we're talking about. But the Houston Rockets too, bro.
Rockets. There you go. And it's funny because in the '90s, the Houston Rockets were the team that was giving the Jazz a hard time. Because
But nowadays, the Houston Rockets can't get by nobody.
yeah, especially the Warriors. And now it really does beg the question though. Would you, as a fan, do you want to root for someone who's consistently in the playoffs, but you know they're going to fall apart, or would you rather they contend and when they're ready and endure some bad years, and then when they come back, they actually win it all?
Well, I'll let me see. I will answer this like this. As a fan, no, I'd rather see my team at least, pushing, pulling, striving to win the whole thing. And if that means they always make it to the playoffs and they lose, even though it's heartbreaking, I'd rather see my team making an effort to get better and go deeper until they could actually win it. And I could say that being a Niner fan this past decade. So,
Oh man, we had some dark years, man.
but yeah, but let's not or even being a Sharks fan or a Warriors fan, like yeah, sure, we got some appearances, we got some championships, but some of those losses were really heartbreaking. But before we get into that, let's get back into the Utah Jazz.
So yeah, the Jazz, man, like Karl Malone and John Stockton, man, that's about as dynamic a duo as you could get, man. Because
Oh, yeah.
because Malone was dominant, and and Stockton can throw dimes like no one.
That this is gonna sound funny, but uh Malone was like a mini Shaq.
Yeah,
He was like a mini Shaq who could shoot.
yeah, man, he could do it all, man. He could play defense. He was dominant in the paint. He could get rebounds. He could do it all.
Oh yeah, he was a bad dude, and his 2 point range jumpers from inside. I mean, his shit hit, bro. It's like a laser.
The mailman, bro.
Yeah, bro, making them deliveries.
Yeah, and and you watch some of those teams, and you feel bad for some of those players, right? You want to see them win.
I wanted John Stockton to win, bro. He's badass.
I know. I wanted both of them to win, even when
He was a quarterback on the hardwood, bro. Basically,
yeah, he was.
his ball distribution skills, he's badass.
Oh, dude, he was. You were not gonna get if someone was open, you were not gonna get it past him. He wasn't gonna get it. He wasn't gonna get it to that open. Malone was open. He was gonna force it right down there.
And I was actually too young to even watch to be able to watch John Stockton at that time. But I seen highlights of him as I got older, and basically our era's John Stockton was Steve Nash.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. And to a degree, maybe Chris Paul at one point.
Yeah, when Chris Paul had that, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Chris
But
Paul was also, but I think Chris Paul, and we'll get to it later too. We'll talk about him because Chris Paul can throw dimes like no one else too. But man, he had some clunkers in the playoffs, bro.
Yeah, so he's on this list as well. We'll just get to that later.
We'll get to that later. So I just love the smile that came on Joe's face. He's like, he just remembered some of the plays.
Damn.
And I think here's a question though, and like there's some we talked about the teams that consistently make the playoffs, but they're not the most well prepared to play in the playoffs. But what about the teams that like you root for them, but you know that they're not competing, they're not competitive? Do you think that ownership plays a part?
Ownership plays a huge part. I mean, if they're not allowing, let's say, a subdivision of the franchise, like let's say for example, a subdivision of the whole franchise would be the coaching staff and the players, right? The bottom, because you go up and you got the managers, the owners, all that stuff, right? So
Yeah,
go to one of the subdivisions, the very bottom, where the players and the coaches. If you don't let them play and you don't let them coach, if you're always trying to take control of things, I think ownership can play, or management can play a huge role in a team falling apart. When you try to act like your expertise is over here on the field and it's not.
so basically you also you agree, you believe in the adage that it all trickles down, it all starts from the top.
Yeah, absolutely. They have to have the right mentality. Obviously, ownership is a whole different thing in its own, right? So they probably got a lot on their plate as well. I can't assume that that's an easy job. They didn't get to be successful, for no reason. So, but yeah, they have to have the right mentality to allow all their people, right, on that, I guess, if you will, the leadership ladder going down underneath them. They have to allow those people to do their jobs.
Absolutely.
When you have owners that are too much into everything, trying to act like their expertise is in everything, that's when teams don't do well, or franchises for that matter.
Like the Cowboys.
Yeah, exactly. Like I didn't want to say his name, but yeah, like Jerry Jones, pretty much.
Yeah, Jerry Jones, Donald Sterling when he was the Clippers.
Yeah, or like I mean, not
And
maybe
Chris
like
Paul
Al
with the Warriors.
Davis or Al Davis's son.
Yep. Al Davis, Chris Cohan when he was with the Warriors, man. Chris Cohan was, man, he sucked.
Yeah, just it starts at the top, man. It has to, and then you have to put the right people in place to do their job, and and
And
and let your machine function like a well-oiled machine.
the Washington owner too. What's it? Dan Snyder.
Yeah, yeah, a lot. They're all over the place. You could probably name like 10 in every sport.
Yeah, it's ownership matters, you guys. I think there's a lot of owners that we hate. I mean, for the longest time, we couldn't stand the Yorks, and I'm still kind of, but yeah, sell the team back to Eddie DeBartolo, please.
I don't think that's gonna happen.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not.
I don't think the Yorks are that bad. They made some changes. Um, you know,
Yeah, I like to mess with Jed York, but honestly, I give Jed his credit because he actually admitted that that he handled things wrong.
well, it's not even just the him admitting it. It's him making the changes. Like he's been trying to make changes so the team can be successful again. And we're
That's
talking about the Niners in case anybody doesn't know who the Yorks are. It's the
yeah,
owner of the Niners.
yeah. So thank you for that too, Josh. I should have mentioned that a little more
That's all
clear.
good.
But yeah, yeah, I agree. I think Jed York has tried to do his best to make things right. Because he
Yeah,
did
no,
make
and I respect
mistakes,
that.
and I
Yeah,
respect that. And he owned up to it. There's a lot of owners like Snyder from the Washington football team. He does not own up to the fact that he's messed up that team.
neither does Jerry Jones.
Nope. They will blame the coaches. They will blame the GMs, but they are not. Even though they're the ones that interfere,
They're never at fault, dude.
they're at fault.
that's that's you're crippling your team, your franchise, whatever you want to call it. You're crippling them.
And so let's start breaking down some of these teams, huh, Jojo?
Let's
Ready?
go.
All
Let's do
right.
it.
Now we made a reference to the Bills a little bit earlier. We're gonna start with the '90s Bills. So you guys are wondering why the '90s Bills?
Oh man, I remember these.
So from 1990 until 1993, 4 years straight. That's right, folks. 4 years straight. The Buffalo Bills made the Super Bowl, and they lost every single one of them.
And I felt really bad because one of our boys is a huge Bills fan. That must have been heartbreaking.
Yeah, that must have been, and credit to them for having the patience to deal with that. Because man, that's the closest they came was when, and I'm pretty sure Joe will remember this one. The closest they came to winning was they were down 1 point against the New York Giants.
Was that in '93?
That was the 90, 90.
90,
That's one.
90. Okay. So even though these were like my early life, right? Because I was born in '90. So even though these were in my early lifetime, I know them very well because when I was a kid, I loved football and I was a student of the game. I would go back and watch old stuff. So that's
Not to,
how I know about these games.
not to mention with YouTube, we get access to all of that stuff. So and it's always being played on ESPN, NFL Network,
Mhm.
etc., etc. It's so you can't really get it like even your neighbor who doesn't know anything about football likely knows what I'm about to talk about, and that's why
Well, well, at that time, I don't think all that technology stuff was available. I think like the computer was the internet was it wasn't as advanced as it is today, but it was around. And I've seen like
yeah,
footage, like you said, like on ESPN, they play back like old Super Bowls. They've always done that.
yeah,
So I've watched them before.
NFL films, like things
Yeah.
like that. So wide right, you guys probably heard that. And some Bills fans that are listening to this are like, oh God, no, he mentioned wide right. So what's wide right? So Scott Norwood, the kicker, kicked a field goal. He was supposed to kick it it was supposed to be for the game winning field goal. And he went and he missed it and it went wide right. He missed it to the right.
Maybe too much pressure. Maybe the laces were in. Who knows?
Who knows? Who knows, man? But it was such a heartbreaking way to lose, like to miss a field goal like that.
Pobrecitos.
But I also think it's too, like sometimes I think people put too much on the kickers, man.
Yeah, man. It's not. Come on. If I mean, I get it. Like, trust me when I say I get it. Right? Us being Niner fans, we get it. But it's if it comes down to that one kick, bro, then your entire team didn't do enough to win.
It should be on the offense should be putting up six instead of having to rely on three.
Exactly. If you know what I mean, and then like I get it though. Like you get paid a lot of money. You're a kicker. You need to make them damn kicks, especially when they're like 30 yarders.
Absolutely, man. Like you should be making those kicks.
I see both sides to it, but as fans, like you need to chill, stop writing death threats to your kickers and shit. Relax, dude. It ain't that serious. Relax.
Oh gosh, man,
They,
that's
they,
so
they got
ridiculous.
wives. They got wives. They got kids, bro. Come on, chill.
The games, it's fun to watch the games, but it's not that serious, you guys.
Fucking relax, bro.
And then, but the thing that was sad about that was the years afterwards. I'm looking at the scores right now. That was the closest they came to winning. They got
That,
blown out the following. So
since we're on the Bills, dude, I wanted them to take it this year.
me too. I wanted to see them do it this year because I was a fan of Josh Allen.
Mm-hmm. They got a solid ass team over there.
They do, man. They got a very good team out there. So I was hoping that they would take it, but Mahomes, man, he is. I don't know, man. I think Mahomes.
Mahomes is just that dude's just like a once in a lifetime talent, bro.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is.
Because honestly, I like what's his name from the Ravens again?
Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, I like Lamar Jackson. He's dope, but I'm just being honest. As far as, in my opinion, the position itself, I think Mahomes plays better.
I think so too.
As an all-around quarterback, he plays
I
better
think it's hard to find better than Mahomes right now, man.
because Mahomes could run. Lamar Jackson is obviously deadly with the speed, but Lamar reminds me more of a Mike Vick, right? like Mike Vick was badass, but if he feels like threatened, especially early in the beginning of his career, he'll just take off. That was his threat. But if he would have learned to play in the pocket better, I think he would have been deadly, right?
Yeah.
And that's the crazy thing about Mahomes. Mahomes will run when he needs to. He has a better intuition or a better instinct. I don't know what it is, but that's what it seems like to me. He has
Yeah.
a better intuition or instinct when to run and when to scramble and extend the play. He'll throw downfield and kill you with them deep passes or them, the middle passes. He'll kill you
He'll
because
kill you with
he's
anything.
such a threat.
He is, man. He could throw in the numbers, he could throw it in the middle, he could throw it on the throw towards the sidelines, he could do any type of throw.
But it's not even the throws. Like he's so athletic and he has such good throwing mechanics that he could do that stuff, right? But it's not even that.
At the
It's
ball.
it's his defensive IQ, the way he could break down defenses and do that. This dude's he's crazy,
It's amazing, man, and it breaks my heart that the Niners didn't even pick him.
bro.
But here, to their to be fair, he was rated as a second rounder. I have no idea how he was rated as a second rounder, but he was.
That that to me is very questionable on the scouts' behalf. But yeah,
And maybe we could do a future episode of scouting because Joe has brought up to Joe and I have talked about that in the past. It's like how the hell can they say this? And then
I mean,
but
what, what, what,
that's a hard job.
well, we're kind of getting off topic here because we're supposed to be talking about the Bills, but it's just because we mentioned some good things. But since you brought up the scouting, here's my thing on it, right? You have players like Joe Montana or Tom Brady who came out way lower in the draft, and
Yes.
then they come out to be like some of the best quarterbacks ever, and all other positions got this. So I definitely get how they look at, like, let's say, skills per position, and then they also look at athletic ability, right? What's your strength, your power, your speed, your vertical jump, so on and so forth. But you should also, by now, with all the years that we have, like, you would think that they start paying a little bit more attention to, like, not just necessarily a person's character, but the reason why I say character is try to look for innate qualities that they may have internally.
Intangibles.
Yeah, other intangibles that they can use for their position, or to just be an overall football player. Like, you would think they'd have a better understanding of that by now. Maybe not have it down to a complete science, but be able to tell, like, you know what, even though this person athletically, we're gonna put in like the eighth round, the fact that those other intangibles that they have, those innate abilities inside with who they are, like, I could kind of see a little bit of that. Like, I'm gonna put this person towards like the second or the third round because I think they could be something special. Like those kind of things. I don't see why they haven't, like, adapted to that.
And it's one of those things. It's hard that like you would think that they start to adjust a little bit, right?
Yeah, and instead of just going off of pure athletic ability, because we know, yeah, that matters, but so does a lot of other things.
And absolutely going back to the Bills, man. So check it out. So the Super Bowl against the Giants was the closest they came to winning, right?
Hmm.
The following year to the Redskins, or now known as the Washington Football Team,
They got to come up with a better name. Come on, man.
37, 37-24. Okay. And then 52-17. They weren't going to, that one was done.
Woo!
And then the last one was 30-13. So they basically got steamrolled the next few Super Bowls.
I think the first one killed their morale. That's what it sounds like. But even then,
Yeah.
maybe not, right? Like, how ridiculous does it sound of me to say, oh, they killed their morale, but they made it to the Super Bowl the two next years. So
Yeah, it seems like it put a mental block on them for sure.
kind of, yeah.
And man, like, and we also made reference to plays or heartbreaking losses that can cause a huge drought in appearances in the playoffs. So remember that the Music City Miracle.
Yeah.
So the Music City Miracle, for those who are unaware, the Titans pulled off this play where they just did a whole bunch of laterals to finish the game, and they scored a touchdown off of that and ended up going to the Super Bowl. The team that the team that they beat in that game was the Buffalo Bills. So for that was in '99. That was until I believe last year. Was it last year or was it the year before?
Mm, for
For a playoff appearance for the Bills. But we're talking almost 2 decades for a playoff appearance because of that play.
That's crazy.
It can mess with the team spirit. Like even if they make the playoffs, they may not do the same. They may not do as well. And
Maybe we're over analyzing here because by then the whole team would have completely different players, but it just kind of seems like it, you know.
it
And
seems like it lingers.
if it's not the players, it might be the coaches. If the coaching staff is still there, it might be the managers. Like there could be some going on with like the play calling, the the strategy, the way they have the whole franchise set up that blocks them from winning. I don't know. We're just trying to figure out what's going on ourselves. But it's
Yeah,
kind of heartbreaking to be a fan of that, man, and see your
it
team go
is.
through that.
And it happens in the same time. Like that, that's just brutal. Or like another team that we didn't add into the onto the run sheet, but would be fitting in here. This is gonna be a last minute addition. The
Yeah, yeah.
Cincinnati Bengals.
Oh yeah, damn.
So when they lost, when they lost to the Niners in Super Bowl 23,
That was in the '80s, right?
that was in the '80s.
Yeah,
They didn't have another winning season until Carson Palmer came in.
that sucks, bro.
So that's over a decade of futility right there. And the '90s were brutal to them. They were consistently winning maybe two, 3, 4 games a year.
I don't know what it is. We're gonna get into this a little bit more, but them two teams in that area right there, they're just terrible.
Yeah, we're so that he's a little foreshadowing right there, right? I see what you did, Joe. I see you.
Yeah, you see it. You see what I did.
And it's crazy, bro. Like how even when they did make the playoffs too, they still haven't won a playoff game since.
The Bengals,
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
and then the other team I'm obviously referring to, if you know your geography, is the Cleveland Browns.
Yes, and we'll get to them in a little bit.
But yeah, it's pretty good to see them do kind of well this season.
It
So
is. It was
that was
cool. I was actually rooting for them too.
yeah, me too. Me too. I was rooting for them. I was like, damn, are they gonna finally do it, bro? I was like, oh, this is pretty good. It's
This is
nice.
pretty good. They got to, and I think and we'll get back to that in a moment. So back to the Utah, and so now we'll explain what we meant by the Utah Jazz. So the Jazz is the Jazz were known for their struggles in the playoffs.
The Jazz were known for not being able to get past Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls. All right, let's keep it
Yes,
real. They fucking couldn't beat them.
they couldn't beat the Showtime Lakers. They couldn't beat the Rockets. They couldn't beat the Sonics. They couldn't, and then when they finally got past them, they couldn't beat the Bulls.
That sucks, huh? When they finally got past all their Western Conference rivals, they met the Bulls. I mean, but there's not many teams who could beat Michael Jordan and his Chicago Bulls in that era.
And
So
then what happens? Michael Jordan retires.
yeah,
It's,
later
it's wide open. They can win it. But what happens?
he comes
Shaq,
back.
Shaq and Kobe rise up.
Yeah, Shaq and Kobe come up late '90s, early 2000s, win that three-peat. I mean, the Utah Jazz just couldn't catch a fucking break, dude, and I feel bad for them. I wanted them to get rings.
Yeah, no, man. I know, man. And even later in his career, man, when Karl Malone gets to the Lakers, I'm like, man, hopefully he just gets a ring.
Yeah, bro.
him and Gary Payton were on that team, and then they lose. At least Payton was able to get a ring though with the Heat. So,
Yeah, yeah.
but man, that was just that's horrible, man. And it's like they were out of luck with their with some of the teams that they ran into, but at the same time, there were so many opportunities that they had. I think it was I think their best chance to win was in '97. That was the year of the infamous flu game.
Michael Jordan had a flu and still beat him.
He,
Nah, but it was food poisoning. Remember they talked about in the
yeah, it
documentary.
was food poisoning. Yeah, but they
But
called it
even
the flu.
still, that feels like a flu. Have you ever had food poisoning before? You don't feel good.
No, I don't feel good, man. You don't have any energy at all. Your body, your system is all messed up.
Yeah, bro.
And
So
Jordan's just a different machine. So, but when that game happened, but when that series happened, man, there were so many opportunities for the Jazz to do. If Karl Malone hits a couple of free throws, they probably could have won that series.
that's messed up.
It's just those like series plays, dude.
Yeah, a little while ago, I talked about Karl Malone being a mini Shaq that can shoot, and then here he goes fucking missing free throws. Oh my god, bro, you're
Damn.
embarrassing me, Carl. Damn, dude.
I was finishing postal service.
Shit, you're not the mailman, bro. Stop it.
Yeah, dude. Not every day Sunday.
What do they? Oh, yeah. Oh. Have you ever seen that movie, fucking Soul Plane?
Oh,
When he
oh
goes,
yeah.
yeah, when he runs into him, what's his name? That dude in that movie, he runs into him.
Oh yeah. He runs into Tom Arnold. He goes like, "Oh,
Yeah, yeah. We used to
I'm the
call it the
mailman
paper
now.
boy.
I'm the mailman now. Oh, you're a mailman. That's great. You should start back in the day.
He starts talking hella shit to him. Oh, that shit's hella funny.
It was hilarious. Credit to Karl Malone for having a sense of humor though.
Yeah, that was good. That was funny.
And you know, you watch some of those players, man. I mean, you gotta give Charles Barkley his. We'll give Charles Barkley a shout out too because he had some great teams with the Suns, man, but he could not get it done either.
Yeah, but I don't know. I feel like Charles Barkley didn't have a complete team, or they just couldn't, like I said, go against that powerhouse that the Bulls had, man, during that time.
I agree. I think the Bulls were just fuck, man. That was just a machine, man. It didn't matter who was playing against. I honestly think, and let me ask you this right now:
Yeah, yeah,
with the Rockets, you know, Akeem Olajuwon in his prime, he was dominant, right?
yeah. He was a beast.
But I honestly believe if they had made the finals and played the Bulls, I truly believe that the Bulls still would have beaten them.
Mm.
What about you?
I would say yeah, because the Bulls were more. When I talk about a complete team, okay, look, their starting five was already deadly, but they had really good role players coming off the bench, bro. That knew their part. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I mean when I say they were a complete team. It wasn't just the superstars, MJ, Scotty, Rodman, the big three, but they had a bunch of good role players too coming off the bench. So it's just like they just had a complete team. Anybody who came up off the bench could play D, they could shoot, and then as a team, their strategy was really good. So I still think they would have won too.
I agree. I think honestly, because I think Horace Grant was the one that said it. He had an interview. They said, "Here's the thing with MJ. If he would have said, you know what, we might not be able to stop Hakeem, but we can stop the other guys."
Yeah.
So it would have been like, okay, Hakeem, get your points, score 100, score whatever you want,
But y'all still gonna lose.
but y'all still gonna lose. Your other guys the rest of your teammates ain't gonna score.
Yeah, because he may be scoring, right? Just like you said, but everybody on the Bulls could score.
Exactly. So and it was one of those things where like when Steve Kerr was talking about it, um, goes Dennis Rodman took pride in his in games where he scored 0 points, but he had 22 rebounds.
Or like fucking 15 blocks
Yeah, or like 10 steals.
and another 15 assists. That's what he
Yeah.
was good for.
So everybody had their roles, right? Like
They
Rodman
knew
looked
they
like
knew their roles and they played them very well.
would Rodman have games where he scored 20? Yeah, but he also knew what his role was. If he needed to score that many points, if he needed to help him when Scottie Pippen was hurt, then he'd do it.
But
But
if he didn't, then he stuck to his other things.
he stuck to his other stuff, which was defense. Like I honestly believe that yeah, Elijah Wan would have probably broken records with the amount of points scored. Probably would have scored, like I said, 100 points and had a whole bunch and had like 20 rebounds, etc., etc. But the rest of his team would probably struggle to get to 5 points. I think honestly, Rodman, Jordan, Pippen, Kukoc,
It
even
was too. It was too. It was too much, bro.
it
It
was
was
too
too
much.
much.
They were gonna shut down the rest of the team and would have said, "All right, if you're gonna beat us, you're gonna score all those points. And we're gonna see you score 120 on us."
For real.
And I think honestly, Jordan would have figured out a way to do it. And so now onwards, right? Like, and here's one that's gonna hit us locally. So we're making fun of other teams. This is the first time we're gonna make fun of our own team. 2002 Giants. 2002 World Series. San Francisco Giants versus the at the time Anaheim Angels. Before they made their team name very complicated, they decided to call themselves now the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. It's like just they changed their name so many times. At one point they were the California Angels. I'm sure at one point they were the New Mexico Angels too. Might as well be the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim of the United States if you want to change your name. But
They should have just kept it at Anaheim, bro.
I know, man, just keep it simple. But no, they changed the name. But anyways, Giants were managed by Dusty Baker. So some people who are sports fans are listening to that name. And if you guys are Giants fans, Reds fans, or Cubs fans, or currently Astros fans,
He's messed up a lot of teams, basically.
you guys are all cringing right now at his name because he has had some of the worst choke jobs of all time. I'll give you another one just with the Giants. In '93, the Giants won 103 games. They're the only team, I believe, to win that many games and not make the playoffs.
Mm.
So 2002, the Giants are winning Game 6. They could take the series. They should have won that series. But for some reason,
Shoulda, woulda, coulda. Don't matter.
Russ Ortiz, who he was a Jekyll and Hyde type of guy, right? Where one day he could be completely dominant, you don't touch him, just let him dominate, finish the game. Or he could be completely off and everybody's hitting him hard. He was dominant this game, and this was I believe it was a clinching game. I might be wrong, but I believe it was a clinching game.
Mm-hmm.
6 innings, sixth inning comes in. Dusty Baker decides, oh, you know what? He's done enough. I'm gonna go to the mound, give him the game ball, and I'm gonna use my beat up bullpen that has all of my pitches who are run to the ground. Then so he gives him the game ball in front of the opposing team. You think that doesn't piss them off? So
Game's not over yet, bro.
the game's not over. It's only the sixth inning.
I just gotta say this. We're talking about the Giants 2002 choke in the World Series. But I gotta say this, bro. This reminds me of last year the Niners fucking celebrating before they beat the Chiefs when we were ahead. That shit pissed me off.
That should piss me off too.
Pissed me off as a Niner fan. What y'all doing, man? But anyway, back to your story, sir. Sorry.
No, we're gonna talk about that in a little bit. So hold that thought, my brother. So so they're watching this. I'm sure, and the Angels are pissed. And then next thing you know, a rally starts, and they get a 3-run home run right away. Right away. And next thing you know, the Giants lose. Then there's a game 7, and the Giants had like no energy in Game 7, man. They just completely fell apart. I will forever blame Dusty Baker for that stupidity. And I was so furious at him that I was glad when I heard that they got rid of him.
Let me ask you this: why do you blame Dusty Baker for that?
Because if you, as the manager, you should set the tone for aggressiveness. And he had no aggressiveness, and he didn't know how to game plan.
Okay.
That's the reason why I got such an appreciation for Bruce Bochy, because he always had a plan. He always knew how to game plan, how to attack.
Not just that. I mean, he never celebrated before the game was over. Like that's you don't do that, dude.
Don't do that. And
If there's still time on the clock, that team could do something where the team that we're playing against can do something if our team is sleeping on them. You don't sleep on nobody like that, man.
I will say this though, I don't want to say forgave him, but it felt better because he did one of his signature chokes exactly 10 years later against the Giants. So the Giants, 2012 Giants. For those who are wondering the significance of the 2012 Giants, the Giants were the first team in National League history to come back from a 2-1 a 2-0 deficit in the first round. And it was against who? Dusty Baker's Cincinnati Reds, the best record in the league. And the Giants came back and won 3 straight against them.
That's how you knew we were something special.
And the Giants did it again on a 3-1 deficit in the NLCS. And then they swept the Tigers, which I thought was funny. Was like, are they going to make it? Are they going to make it difficult? Are they going to like take us to the wire? Nah. Once they got to the World Series, it was like, nah, fuck this. We're going to end this right now against a team that was widely expected to dominate the Giants. Like no one gave them a chance. But we'll talk about that another time. But Dusty Baker, yeah, man. Thank you for choking that ear, and we're glad to give you that ass whooping. Anyway, and then so yeah, 2002 was rough, man. That was brutal. That was a brutal way to lose. That was my most heartbreaking loss until later on, and we'll get to that in a moment. And Oakland A's. So we made reference earlier to the A's. 89, they swept the Giants, and they still love talking about it. And if you don't, and you don't even have to ask an A's fan; they'll just start talking about it. We swept the Giants in '89. If you hey, the Giants won the World Series this year. We won in '89. See how the conversation goes. The A's post '89 have gotten out of the first round of the playoffs only one time.
There you go.
And the year after they beat the Giants in the World Series, they got swept in the World Series by the Reds. And ever since then, they haven't had much success, and they've lost in many heartbreaking ways, man. There's a lot of plays you could think of also with the team. So what some of the infamous plays are when they led 2-0 against the Yankees, and the Yankees came back. They won 3 straight. And one of the infamous plays was Jeremy Giambi not sliding at home plate. He just ran through, and if he slid, he would have scored. Terrence Long losing a fly ball in the light and losing the lead.
Just remember this though. Those plays, I mean, they're big plays. Like you got to make those plays. But like honestly, if it comes down to one play, I don't think your team did enough, man.
Yeah. Another one was against the Tigers. They had bases loaded, no outs. None of those runners scored. I think they did it twice in that same game too. Uh, Another one that I think of right away with the A's is the year that they played the Royals and they changed the leads for the wild card game. They changed the leads like 3 times, man. They took the lead 3 times and they kept on giving up the lead. And the Royals were good that year. They made it to the World Series and they ran into Madison Bumgarner, and then everybody knows what happened then. But I don't know, man. The A's are always good, man. They're fun to watch. But when it comes to October, they're good at making October. But when it comes to October baseball, they struggle there. It's always something. There's always something going on in there.
I honestly thought the A's were gonna leave like the Raiders did
I thought so.
for all those reasons we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, I thought so too at one point.
And for anybody listening who doesn't remember, we're referring to the fact that they wanted to move to San Jose, but that's Giants territory. They sold those rights back to the Giants, so they couldn't move there, and they were thinking about moving somewhere else.
And I always thought that the A's were gonna. I didn't want the A's to leave Oakland either. You know what I mean?
No, I didn't want them to leave Oakland.
It's like even though I love the fact that the Warriors are in San Francisco, I
They
love
should
Oracle
stay in
Arena.
Oakland.
I love Oracle Arena. Like that was the Oracle was the best, man. That was one of the best environments to opponents hated coming over there. So, but it is what it is, man. I mean, I got love for Oaktown. I got love for the town. And I don't know, man. The A's just they're not the dominant team that they weren't the postseason dominant teams that they were in the 70s and the 80s. You know, like where it wasn't just that they got in and they took care of business in October. Like nowadays, it's more like they get to October, but then when you play them in October, it's not the same team.
Yeah, yeah, true that.
And a lot of that is to the fact that they keep selling their players. Like Joe said, a lot of it is that, and that messes with the chemistry.
It messes things up. I mean, you get to know a group of guys. You guys are playing well together. Then all of a sudden, those guys are gone, and you got new people. And like, okay, here we go, starting all over again.
Yep. And now we're back to the Eagles. So we kind of made some references early. So the Eagles were always in the playoffs. They were always playing against certain teams. They were always a lot to make the playoffs, but whenever they got to the playoffs, they were always losing in some unexpected fashion or some heartbreaking fashion. Like you heard so many stories about like for example, Joe made reference to Donovan McNabb in the Super Bowl. One of the stories that came out of that Super Bowl was that Donovan McNabb was throwing up in the huddle.
Oh yeah,
I can believe that. I mean, he would choke a lot of times, man.
yeah. Do you think it was out of nervousness though?
I would say that he was probably overwhelmed.
I don't know, because even after that, once he became a sports anchor, I think he was on the NFL Network.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Um, but when they would talk about his Super Bowl runs or deep playoff runs, he was always keeping like his cool, like no, and just the way he was talking, like his composure, he held his composure. He talked about it well. He gave reasonable and logical explanations. It didn't seem like he was delusional about those losses or whatever. It seemed like he was just being real to me whenever they brought it up to him when I would watch that. But also correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't they make the NFC Championship like 3 years in a row and lose 3 years in a row?
Yep.
They did, right? Damn. Yeah,
So, like honestly, bro, I think the Tampa loss was
in,
like, man,
in
I believe they lost.
2002.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's still the one that's like, how did they lose to Tampa, dude? Like, they had a great defense. Don't get me wrong, but it's just like if there was a game that was tailor made for them, it was that one. Freezing cold temperatures over there in Philadelphia. They're in the worst stadium ever in the vet. For those who for those who don't know what I mean by the Veteran Stadium was the old home that they played in at the time, and it was a brutal playing surface.
Do they have a new stadium now?
Well, I mean it's like 16 years old, but yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah.
Hmm.
Veteran Stadium, dude. They that stadium was that stadium was brutal, man.
Remind me. Maybe I'm forgetting.
I forget what it's called right now. I'll look it up, but
No, no, but the old stadium. Well, why was it brutal?
Veteran Stadium. It had turf and it was really poor quality turf. And they it was a multi-use stadium. It was one of those cookie cutter stadiums, kind of like Candlestick and Coliseum.
Okay.
So the surface was really bad. And because it was bad and because the weather could be poor with it, the turf was just poor quality. So there was a lot of injuries there. On the
Poor quality turf like the fake grass you buy at Home Depot.
Nah, worse quality, dude. It was like the really shitty
Like
turf.
it wasn't like actual turf made for like a football field, right?
Oh, no, it wasn't.
Like athletic turf. Yeah.
Yeah, it was terrible. I think it was notorious because a lot of people ended up getting hurt there.
Oh, for real?
Yeah. So
I didn't realize that.
yeah, so I mean that was they should have won that they should have won that game, but it was
Against the Bucks?
against the Bucks. Yeah, I think they were because they were a better team that year. I think.
What was the score? Because the Bucks defense was killer that year, bro. I don't know.
Ooh, let's look that up.
You couldn't run on them. You couldn't pass on them. Bro. You ain't winning. You are not winning that entire season against the Bucks. That team was something else.
Yeah, that was one of the greatest defenses of all time.
It has to be. It has to be at least like top three all season. Nobody was running and passing on them.
Yeah, we got killed by them too. The Niners lost to them 31-6.
I know. Don't remind me.
So yeah, it was 27-10, Tampa Bay.
Damn, that doesn't look like the Eagles were close, bro.
Oh, it doesn't, man. Like the score is closer than it looks, man. That was a pretty big blowout. And then
So then, why do you think the Eagles should have won that game? Because it was in home turf.
I think it was because there was not only was it the not only were they what's it called were they good in cold weather, they were better built for the cold weather game because John Gruden was more of a passing game coach, and because it was cold and because it was freezing temperatures, it was more built for the running game.
Who was their running back at that time?
I don't remember. I don't even remember. I think that they should have won that game, but another one that they should have won was against the Carolina Panthers the following year,
Mm, okay.
and that game was embarrassingly bad for them because this, you know what the final score was in that game?
Nope, I don't remember.
14-3.
Well, it sounds like a defensive game.
Sounds like a defensive game, and also just man, I'm just looking up right now. So Donovan McNabb, 10 for 22, only 100 yards.
Damn, that's horrible.
Yeah, that's really bad. So
That
that's great defense, but at the same time, that's like, bro, you gotta do a little more than that.
the Eagles at that time, I think they had one of my favorite safeties. They had Brian Dawkins at that time.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
Yes, they did. So yeah, that was sad. That was sad.
Mm-hmm.
And who did they lose to this? And then they also, and then 2001 they lost to the Rams, but the Rams that year were the favorites. I mean, they were everyone expected them to just steamroll the Patriots too, and then we know how that went.
The 2001. Oh yeah, 99 was the Titans and the Rams. I think in that Super Bowl, wasn't it?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Eagles lost to the Rams, the Buccaneers, the Panthers. With the exception of the Rams, they should have beat the other two teams though,
In the NFC Championship games, huh?
and the NFC Championship game. So that was, and then they lost the Super Bowl to to Tom Brady and the Patriots.
The fourth year or
Yeah,
the fifth year?
fourth.
Damn, dude.
it's it's insane. It's
Look,
insane.
look at how consistently good they were. They just could not finish.
They just couldn't finish to save their lives, man.
Oh, that's such a heartbreak, bro. Even not even being a fan, just of that particular team, just being like a sports fan. Like that's a heartbreak.
And then 2005,
Why don't we just go to 2007 and
because they
talk
didn't make the
about
playoffs in 2007.
the good old Pats?
2007. Damn, there's a lot to cover with the Eagles there, man. I don't know. We might have to do a whole episode on that one, huh?
No. We just gonna move to the Pats.
I'm just kidding.
We just gonna move to the Pats now.
Oh, 2007 Patriots.
Yep.
Wow. So the ghost. So in the football episode, when I said my other greatest team in the Super Bowl era, I said the 1972 Dolphins. The reason why is because they're the only team to complete the perfect season. They didn't lose any games and they won the Super Bowl.
That's the greatest team ever, huh?
Greatest team ever. The only thing that people like to mention is that they won it during the 14 game season era.
Mm.
But it's like you can talk about that all you want. That's still a perfect season. They never lost. So with that, rightfully they get the respect. So every time there's a team that's undefeated, for example, like the Niners were last year for the first 9 weeks of the season, the ghost of the 72 team always pops up. Are
The
they?
ghost. Get out of here, bro. Don't be
they
superstitious. The
no,
ghost.
no, that's what they call it. They call it the media goes like the ghost of the 72 Dolphins always lurks every time. Are they going to be the next are they going to be the next 72 Dolphins?
That's
Are
some
they
bullshit an NFL analyst just came up with, bro. Stop it. It's because the pressure gets to people. You know, it's that's a lot to go a whole season without losing one game. And especially if you don't lose any of the regular season games, well, that loss may come in the playoffs or in the championship game. I'd rather lose in the regular season. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
It's a lot of pressure.
So that's why they always call it the ghost of it. It's like, oh, where's the loss going to come from? Oh, are they like the Dolphins? Are they like the Dolphins? It's
Mm.
always, are they like the Dolphins? So the Patriots that year had Brady. That was probably Brady at his best. Although Brady's still pretty good, anyways.
I don't know. I don't know if you could say that. You can't say one year was Brady at his best. You gotta give an average.
Oh man,
After his career's over, you gotta give an average.
yeah. I think honestly, if I were to give Brady at his best, I would say the 2010s were his best. To be
Well,
completely honest, because he was carrying a lot of those teams, man.
I definitely respect Brady's also one of those once in a lifetime talents for his position for sure.
I agree.
So I respect him and how good he is. But I will say this: in my opinion, you can feel about it however you want. But in my opinion, his reputation is tainted because of
Yeah.
Spygate and the football deflation thing. So a lot of people say, well, that's Belichick, or that's the Patriots organization, whatever. You're gonna tell me the head quarterback, right, the superstar of the league, didn't know what was going on? Stop it. He knew exactly what was
He
going
knew
on.
exactly what was going on.
Stop it.
And,
So even though he's hella good, even though he's hella good, and I respect his skill level because he still got it, his reputation is a little tainted to me.
and not to mention that they did struggle for a little while after that Spygate stuff. Now,
Yeah,
don't get me wrong, they still had winning records. They were still in the playoffs, but they were getting eliminated frequently at that time. Or when they did make the Super Bowl, they were getting their asses handed to them.
yeah, it wasn't that easy anymore when you weren't spying on the other team.
Yeah. So, and then, so 2007, they had, so this is like after Spygate happened, right? 2007, they had Randy Moss, who was toiling in Oakland. They traded for him, and they're wondering, oh, does Randy Moss still have it? He answered that question pretty well that year. He was dominant that year with Brady, and they didn't lose one game. They dominated the entire season. That was a dominant freaking team, man.
Mm.
And then they go into the Super Bowl against the New York Giants, a team that may not have had the best record in the regular season, but for but they knew how to play in the postseason, man. When January came on, they knew how to play. Like you got to give them that they could run the table. It didn't matter if they were the sixth seed, the fifth seed. It didn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
All they had to do was just get in. They were kind of similar to the San Francisco Giants in that way. And I just remember thinking, man, there is no way that the Giants are going to beat the Patriots. The Patriots were too dominant, right? Next thing, but you watch the game, the Giants were just putting pressure on Brady the entire game. Brady was on his ass.
They had the Giants had a crazy defensive line. I think they had Michael Strahan. They
Yep.
had didn't they have Pierre Garcon also? Or
No,
am I getting my names confused?
no. Pierre Garcon was not on that team. He was. They had what's his name? Osi Omenora or something like that.
Yeah, Osio Manor, and there was somebody else who's there was another. He had like a name kind of like that. Maybe I'm probably getting them confused. He was on the defensive line also. They had like three like really dope ass defensive linemen.
And they also had Justin Tuck.
So they had Michael Strahan, Justin Tuck, and who was the other one?
Osi Omenora,
Oh, okay, that's probably it then.
probably. That and the thing is that that pass rush was crazy.
Bro, crazy pass rush, bro. Like, they had a front seven, right? Didn't they have a front seven?
Yeah,
But they played like a 3-4, didn't they? If I remember correctly.
I believe so. Yeah,
Yeah, they played like a 3-4 because with those three dudes on the defensive line, they were already causing havoc. And then every now and then they'll send, a linebacker in on a blitz or back into pass coverage to try to get Tom Brady to make a mistake. And yeah, they made him make some mistakes that game.
and I believe they were injured. Some of those players were injured for that period of time.
Yeah, possibly. I
But
don't, I
in
don't, I
the
don't
regular
remember.
season, in the regular season, they were injured and they came back in the playoffs.
Wow.
So people weren't really like paying attention to the fact that their pass rush was healthy again.
Mm.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you have a pass rush, you're more than likely going to win.
I mean, if you could put pressure on that quarterback to make them make some mistakes, absolutely.
Yeah, because Tom Brady was either running for his life or he was on his ass. One or the other. And then on the other side, you had um, Eli Manning transforming into Peyton Manning,
Crazy, huh?
and then the David. And so I'll give you guys a story from this game. So I'm here watching it with two of my friends, and Joe was watching it over at his place, but I was texting him throughout the game. And both of us are obviously we're Niner fans. So at the time, the debate between Montana and Brady was more of a debate. Whereas now it's kind of one sided. Everybody like it's kind of hard to debate. It's kind of hard to argue. But
Mhm.
anyways, back to what we were saying.
I wouldn't. No, 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 no. Let's talk about that for a little bit. I wouldn't.
But
So as far as Super Bowls goes, um, definitely it's obvious that Tom Brady has that, right?
yeah,
As I stated before, without his reputation is tainted. I don't know much details about it, but I do know that there is a possibility of him cheating and his team cheating.
yeah,
Spygate, the deflation. I think there was one more, but I don't remember. Um,
probably is.
but uh, basically, like no other quarterback in the Super Bowl era that has Super Bowls has that. Like for example, Joe Montana don't have that. So they didn't have the technology they had now back then, so none of that stuff was even possible. You just went out there and you played, and if you were better, you were better.
Absolutely. And Joe and I are in agreement with that one. I think I still think Montana is the greatest, but I give Brady his respect. But
Yeah, I give Brady his respect, but I still think Joe Montana is the greatest. He has the Super Bowls, he has the accolades, just like Tom. Tom got the accolades now, but his reputation isn't tainted with rumors like that. Nobody ever said anything like that. So as far as we know, it's clean. He won those Super Bowls fair and square, just being better.
and he never lost. Look,
Yeah, and he never lost a Super Bowl too.
and speaking of loss, so Joe and I were texting each other during that time on our razors. Remember those?
Mhm.
Remember those old phones right there, those flip phones?
Back in the days.
Yeah. So we're texting each other. We're like, man, because we're like we don't want Brady to win because I think if he won that one, it would have tied him with Montana at the time.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't want Brady to win and tie with Super Bowl championships.
Yeah, I didn't want it either. So I'm texting Joe the entire time while I'm hanging out with my other two buddies, and we're watching the game. It's like Brady's really going to lose, but we're like, is this really going to happen? Like we're watching that pass rush, and they're just getting to Brady the entire time. Brady has no answer for it, and then the David Tyree catch happens.
The helmet catch, like this.
He caught it like literally like I don't even think he caught it with his hand. I think he caught it like with his forearm. I think it was like this.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. He just like held on to the ball as tight as he could, and he had who was behind him?
Rodney Harrison.
Yeah, there you go.
He tried to rip it out too, and he couldn't do it.
Yeah, that was crazy. That was a dope ass catch, bro.
That
That,
was
that
so
dude,
fast
that
catch.
dude hang on to that ball like you would hang on to a baby.
Yeah, yeah. He did not catch it like in a comfortable position. I think if he tried to get him to do that multiple times, he probably would. It would probably he probably wouldn't catch it most of the times.
Probably not.
But man, I remember we were texting. He's like, "That was the craziest catch you've ever seen." And then Joe sends me a text. He's like, "I'm calling it right now. They lose. Patriots are gonna lose this one."
With that catch, that they're gonna lose it, and they hadn't even scored yet. We didn't know if they were gonna score, but I just thought they're gonna make that field goal.
Yeah. So when the game ended, man, all of us were sitting here in the living room, and we're just like, I can't believe the Patriots just lost a perfect season. Like
I
how,
thought
how
I thought they were gonna. I thought it was gonna be like a Cinderella story. Well, not Cinderella story, like but like that franchise hasn't done well, and then they're gonna go through a perfect season all of a sudden.
yeah, they like all of a sudden they're the new dynasty and they did the perfect season and all the pomp and circumstance and next thing you know, Tom Brady and the Patriots are the only team to lose a perfect season like this.
That's crazy.
And I remember talking with Joe that now. He's like, dude, what the hell did we just watch? Like, is this real? Like, damn, dude. Like,
I was kind of surprised at how well the uh the Giants were playing defensively, and then like their offense was just like resilient until they came back.
it was And honestly, the Giants and Eli Manning, man, they just had the Patriots number because when they played them in the Super Bowl a couple years after that, they did the same thing to them.
Hmm.
It, kudos to those Giants, man. They broke our hearts in the second Super Bowl run, though.
Yeah, the second Super Bowl, um,
The
that the
Cal Williams game.
yeah, yeah. No, but I was gonna say, yeah, they ended up winning two Super Bowls, and then they both of them were against the Patriots. That's crazy.
Yeah, they beat them. They outcoached Bill Belichick, and then so
Who was their coach at the time? The Giants coach?
ooh, give me a moment.
No worries. I just remember he was known for being a good coach, but I think he's retired now.
Yeah, I believe he's retired now, but that's a good question, man. I'm trying to remember.
It's all good. If we don't got it, we don't got it. We could just move on to the next one. I just thought you might know.
Nah, I don't know, but I'm looking it up right now.
No worries, bro. Let me intercept this. Let me intercept. Kind of like the Seahawks.
Tom Coughlin.
Oh, Tom. Okay, there you go.
You can intercept it like the Seahawks.
I'm gonna intercept it like the interception that the Seahawks threw and lost the big game.
Yes. Oh, what a segue! What a segue. Okay, Malcolm Butler.
That's right. I got this.
Okay, so everybody already knows about the Niners and the Seahawks. That's a well-known rivalry.
Whoop de whoop whoop. Let's get to the point.
But man, rivalry aside, why the hell would you not give the ball to Marshawn Lynch on the 1 yard line?
They could have what? So they got one Super Bowl ring, right?
They got one Super Bowl
They
ring, and
could have had two.
they're 1-2 in the Super Bowl, and they raise a flag for it.
Does Marshawn have a Super Bowl with them, or was he not with them? Okay, I can't remember.
Yeah, he was. Honestly, I think he was the main reason they won.
You think so?
Him and LOB.
Mm.
Man, I still like he. That was so. Joe said on the football episode that he doesn't follow sports like he used to.
No, I don't.
This was probably the last couple of years that Joe followed sports like a madman.
Yeah, I was still on it. I mean, my whole childhood until like early adulthood, and then yeah,
Yeah,
I just don't keep up too much anymore.
roughly 2015 around there, right?
Yeah, roughly.
So Joe just started with the gym around that time. So this was maybe the year before that he started. So we're at the gym and we're keeping us like, man, like the Niners just had the divorce with Harbaugh and that was distracting us. But then we're like, man, the Seahawks are just probably going to win again. We kind of just we're all just like, it is what it is. They're going to win again and so forth and so forth. We're watching the game. Joe and I are texting back and forth, and they're at the 1 yard line. So what do we think? So we're like, man, he's just gonna run it in. The Seahawks are a run heavy team, especially with Marshawn Lynch back there. They're a run heavy team. So we figured, oh, they're at the 1 yard line, so of course they're gonna run it in. Nope, they decide to pass it, and Malcolm Butler gives one of the biggest highlight of his career, and intercepts it. And if you guys saw Richard Sherman's face when that happened, that was all of our faces. Like, what the hell just happened? Joe and I were texting back and forth, like, what the hell just happened? Because the play before that, one of the receivers made an insane catch too. And then next thing you know, it's caught, it's intercepted in at the 1 yard line. That has to be one of if not the most heartbreaking way to lose. Well, there's another heartbreaking way to lose, but we'll get to that in a moment. What did you think, Joe?
You said it. I ain't got no follow up. It is what it is. Time to move on.
People still, people still say to this day why people still make references to the 1 yard line. The Seahawks are okay as long as they're not on the 1 yard line. Do you think that they tried to make that they were trying to force Russell Wilson as the MVP?
No, I don't think so. I just think they were trying to throw something different at them.
The clip of Pete Carroll, screaming "Oh no"
Hmm.
on the sideline is still classic though.
I don't remember the Pete Carroll.
I'll send it to you afterwards because if you see it, you like it's. Well, let's put it this way. Maybe I keep it as a secret, but I'll send you the link later on.
All right, I'll check it out later. See
It's
what's up.
still one of the craziest. I still can't wrap my head around the fact that they literally passed on becoming a dynasty. And the Seahawks have consistently made the playoffs since, but they haven't been the same since.
Yeah.
I think a lot of like how we were talking about the morale earlier.
Hmm.
Richard Sherman has made reference to it. I believe Earl Thomas, and I don't remember the name of their pass rusher, Michael something. They have all made reference to the fact that they were never the same after that, and that they kind of not quit on the team, but they questioned a lot of it because they didn't trust the leadership after that.
Mm.
That can mess with a team. I can honestly see that ruining a team, especially a team that was so defensive dominant. Now they're more offensive dominant. They're not like none of the members of Legion of Boom are there anymore.
Well, that's because they were all juicing anyways.
See.
So what does it matter?
All right. So now, all right, Joe. So sorry, bro. We're going to be talking about the Sharks now.
Oh man, here we fucking go.
So Joe is from San Jose, and he's a huge San Jose Sharks fan. But one of the things that comes with being a Sharks fan is a lot of heartbreak. And but I think we mentioned Dusty Baker earlier. The Sharks had their own Dusty Baker before with what was his name? Todd McClellan.
Hmm.
First round, he couldn't do anything. When they released him, it was one of the best decisions that they made. And then, because I think with his last 2 years with the Sharks, one of them they had a 3-1 lead in the first round against the Kings, I want to say, and the Kings came back and won the series.
It was terrible, especially to a division rival like that.
Like that's like it was gut wrenching to watch that loss, and they had numerous years of losses like that where they just completely disappeared.
Yeah, it's like the whole team folded. I don't really know where that stems from. I don't know if it's. I mean, I know our lineup's always been pretty good. So in my opinion, it's the coaching, it's the management, and it goes back to that. In my opinion.
And I believe that too, especially when they made the switch to Pete DeBoer, because
Hmm.
they were able to get out of the first round with Pete DeBoer. And then when McClellan went to, I think he went to the Oilers, Edmonton Oilers, they choked in the first round with him too, I believe. Maybe I'm wrong, but they didn't do very well with him because I don't even think he's there anymore.
Yeah, and then the our first Stanley Cup appearance, and we lose badly. It wasn't good.
No, it wasn't. And that just added more heartbreak to us because that was the same year that We're also Warrior fans, Golden State Warrior fans. That was the exact same year that the Warriors had the 73 win team and they lost to the Cavs.
We blew a 3-1 lead.
Man, you know, that was probably the worst loss. I think that was the most heartbreaking one. I think out of all my teams.
The Warriors.
I think so. I think that was the worst one. The
Mm.
Super Bowl losses were bad, but I think this was the worst one because they could have outdone the 72-10 Bulls. Most wins in NBA history, they could have won it, and they didn't do it. Now I'm actually proud of them because a loss like that can set you back, right? Like it could be one of those losses that prevents you from making the playoffs all these years. And
Yeah.
you, but instead the Warriors were ended reloaded. They got Kevin Durant and they won back-to-back championships in the coming years. But it was so freaking.
I'm gonna say I'm gonna say all three of those were the same for me. The Sharks losing that Stanley Cup, and then of course losing against the LA Kings. And then one of the new teams in the league for the Sharks. That's a new rivalry for me that I don't like. Are the Vegas Golden Knights.
Oh,
We've lost some pretty tough games to them too.
they're an expansion team and they're hella good, man. What the?
Well, yeah, they're an expansion team and they're hella good because most people don't know they got first dibs on a lot of players from all over the league. So they got players with experience and with some skills. So because they wanted to make that team competitive, they didn't want to bring them in and that team not do well because they wanted to build up the fan base. A hockey team in Vegas kind of
Yeah.
look weird, right? So they wanted to build up the fan base. So that's where they were able to do that. But yeah, so the Sharks losses, the Warriors loss when we were up 3-1 against the Cavs and we blew that, and then both Super Bowl losses as well as that NFC Championship game against the Giants for the Niners. Those were all the same to me because those are my teams and I wanted them to do well. So
So speaking of the Niners Super Bowls, I mean, the 2012 Super Bowl at the time was the most devastating to me because the Niners at the time, what was the calling card? We never lost the Super Bowl, right?
yeah,
I
until
know. Then when they lost, it's like, damn.
yeah,
And before the Seahawks, they were the ones that were like, man, why didn't you run the ball?
yeah,
The
pretty
Niners
much.
were at the 1 yard line, but they were in the red zone.
Hmm.
All they needed to do was just run Frank Gore in there because the Ravens weren't stopping the run, and we decided to pass.
It wasn't just that though. It was that whole Super Bowl was weird. The whole halftime lights going off and all this weird shit
Oh yeah, it was it
that made no
was
sense. So I don't know. You know
that
who?
was a weird Super Bowl for sure. But I think last year's Super Bowl was. You mentioned earlier that it pissed you off when they were celebrating. I was furious watching them. I'm watching these young guys are like, "Oh, we won already." It's like, and then you watch Richard Sherman getting on all of them, cussing them out, telling them, "Hey, the game's not over. Stay focused. We're still a quarter away. Get that work in. Let's go now." Like it was. It's like, but at the same time, I'm asking myself, like, why are you celebrating this early? Like, why would you celebrate, especially knowing, especially knowing Patrick Mahomes is on the other side, and the way that he got into the Super Bowl was that he made comebacks of larger margins. Like, you think that he can't do that against you? Like it was, I think last year's Super Bowl was probably the more heartbreaking one, honestly. But just watching that was so infuriating. I did not like watching that. I did not like watching. I did not like seeing them like get comfortable. It's like you only have a 10-point lead. You guys should be adding on instead of just like resting on it.
Yeah, we just didn't play as well as we should have. So it's disappointing.
It was,
But but all three of those teams in all three different sports were pretty sad to me. I didn't like them at all.
No, it was not. It was not cool. And but at least with us, our teams have won in the past. I mean, the Sharks haven't done it yet, but we hope that they will soon.
They're still a relatively young team. I think they're one of the youngest ones
Yeah. So I
in the,
mean,
in
there's
the
still
NHL.
potential. There's still potential there. But one of the a team that was really good in the early 2000s in the NBA were the Clippers, the LA Clippers. Man, they had Blake Griffin, Chris Paul, Matt Barnes. That was just a team that, if you look at them on paper, they should have won, right? Like that was a team that should have been at least in the Western Conference Finals. I don't even think they made it Western Conference Finals.
Coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Exactly, but it was one of those. Damn, like I hated the Clippers, dude. I think the Clippers were the team I hated the most, aside from the Rockets in basketball.
Why?
Clip because I couldn't stand Blake Griffin.
How come?
Well, at the time, like they were the rivalry at the time,
Yeah, but why couldn't you stand him?
and then because Blake Griffin was always whining, he was always flopping, and
Flopping's relative. If you compare it to LeBron James, nobody flops.
and one of the things that I hear, like where he was complaining about a call in the game that he threw water on a fan, pretending that he didn't know that there was cup water in the cup.
You said you heard about this? Because I
No, no, no. Watch the clip. There's a clip of it. Like in the game, he throws a cup and it has water in it. He hits a fan with it.
uh
He was always he was always trying to
did
punk
it on
out
purpose.
Draymond, and he was always trying to punk out Draymond, and Draymond was just didn't give a fuck about him.
So wait, hold up. Go back to the cut. So you think he did that on purpose?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I do not trust. He was a drama queen, dude. Him and Chris Paul were like the biggest whiners,
And you said he was always trying to punk on Draymond.
or just anybody, man. He was always trying to get a foul. He was always trying to start fights. I remember he tried to start a fight with Jermaine O'Neal, and then Jermaine O'Neal went to the locker. He's like, "If you want to settle this, let's settle this." And then so he was like the tough guy that was a tough guy in the sense that he was a big guy, so he felt that everybody needed to respect him, I guess. And he was just it was just a hollow threat, and he just annoyed the crap out of me at the time. The biggest difference between Draymond and Blake is that Blake used to always go after the bench player or the person that was on the bubble. You're not going to make yourself a big guy by going at because Draymond people are thinking of Draymond at the current time, right? But if you look at Draymond 2012, 2013, 2014, etc., he was a player that was a bench player and he was on the bubble. He was a second rounder. So he wasn't guaranteed a roster spot. And Blake Griffin would always mess with him at the time.
Mm.
Whereas with people go like, oh well, Draymond's a diva too, and he's a pain in the ass and he starts a lot of shit. But here's the thing: the difference between Draymond and Blake Griffin is that Draymond will go after LeBron. He will go after Chris Bosh. He will go after he'll go after the big stars. He'll also go after the backups.
Mm.
So I mean, one of them that would start a fight with him a couple of years ago was well, actually, it wasn't with him. It was with Clay Thompson. But then um, Draymond stepped in to defend him. Was Kelly Oubre, who's with the
Mm.
Warriors right now. So when you have someone that's not afraid to scrap, you gotta do that to everybody. So Blake Griffin he would not do that to LeBron. He would not do that. He couldn't even do that with what's his name, Chris Paul. He was scared
Mm.
of Chris Paul. But the thing with Draymond, he is not scared if you're a superstar or a or a or a bench player with a questionable past. Like what's the name of that? What was the name of that guy that he was the Clippers a couple of years ago, and then he went to the Cavs, Dante Jones or something like that. Something like that. where he after in a post game interview he decided to elbow Draymond in the middle of the interview, try to get his attention.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So yeah, it's always so yeah. Draymond, does he have his moments where he can be a little diva-ish? Yeah, he does. But the one thing about Draymond that you could say is that he won't hold back whether you're a superstar like LeBron or Kevin Durant or Chris Paul. He doesn't give a fuck if you're a star or if you're a bench player. You're gonna if he has something to say to you, he'll say something to you. But with Blake Griffin, he's not. If you're LeBron James, Chris Paul, or uh, or Kevin Durant, he's not gonna say anything to you. But if you're a Jordan Poole or a G League player coming in to fill in, he'll get in your face. That's the difference. That's why I didn't couldn't stand Blake Griffin because he would try to impose his will on people who were they weren't going to do anything to him. They were harmless.
Hmm. Okay, I see your point.
So whereas because at the time Draymond also was on the bubble. He was one of those players that was a bench player. He was not guaranteed a roster spot. So what's he going to do, right? But at the same time, that's also when you realize that Draymond didn't give a fuck. So it's like, okay, get in my face.
Mm.
I'll give you a story. I actually met Draymond Green in 2015. So that was just before the championship was won. He was doing an autograph session. And when he was signing my picture, I actually told him, "Hey, keep punking out Blake Griffin." And he looks at me, he goes, "You already know." He's like, "You already know." So Draymond's just unique in that way. But I think with Blake Griffin, I think that the difference with him and Draymond is that Draymond will get in anyone's face. He doesn't care who it is. But Blake will only get in the face of somebody that he knows is powerless against him.
Mm.
And after that, man, what do you think of Drew Brees? Do you think he's underrated?
Drew Brees?
Yeah,
No, I don't think he's underrated. I think he gets enough exposure and credibility in the league. I don't think he's underrated.
because I thought he should have won in the Super Bowl at least,
You think?
especially with the teams that those Saints have had the last 4 years or so.
I mean,
Finally got it. They finally had a defense, and for some reason,
he should have won, but he didn't.
damn, dude, like it was always like the first couple of years, there was always something with the refs, and then this year Breeze just didn't have it this year against the Buccaneers. I think he threw like 4 interceptions.
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
The Saints were just so I want to say 17, 18, 19, and then this year they were always having they
They've
were
always been
always
really, really good.
was that
They've always been really good, but just haven't been able to pull the trigger either.
they
Just
haven't been able
finish.
to pull it. Yeah, they haven't been able to finish a job, and it's disappointing, especially because they actually had a defense now. Like when they won in '09, I think was it '09?
Hmm. I believe so.
They they should have. They had a decent defense. They had one that could cause turnovers, but it wasn't like a dominant defense. Like they actually had a dominant defense this time.
Yeah, they did. It was kind of surprising.
And then when they played the Niners in 2011, that defense sucked ass. Like it was completely all offense. You were going to play a shootout every time against the Saints.
Well, their defense was okay. I think in that game we just made them look trash. But the defense did pretty good throughout the season.
Yeah, and then after that, they just had years where they were just horrendous on defense. Like they couldn't do anything defense.
Well,
They couldn't stop anything.
that makes sense. Don't you remember what's their coach's name? Um,
Peyton,
yeah, Sean Payton, where he had his players basically like paying them out to do hits on other players, like, oh, hit this player hard and hurt them. Remember that?
that's right. The Bounty Gate.
Yeah, there you go. So I mean, it makes sense, right? If their defense was doing that, then they got caught up. and they found out who the players were that were participating in the bonuses for hurting other players from other teams.
I think one of them that they targeted was actually Frank Gore, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Damn. Don't cheat, kids.
That's what I'm saying. Like I honestly don't feel bad for them. If they can't win, you couldn't win.
I forgot about that until you brought it up, dude.
Yeah.
Honestly, I forgot about the bounty gate.
And honestly, if you're gonna tell me the star quarterback of that team didn't know that that was going on either, you're full of shit. So Drew Brees' reputation is just as tainted as Tom Brady's, in my opinion. But they get plenty of credibility throughout the league. So I do not think Brees is underrated in any way. He's always in the conversation.
I didn't, you know what? I didn't think about the bounty gate. I forgot about bounty gate. So that's a good memory on that one. Good call on that one.
No, I just remember stuff like that because these teams get talked about that they're so good, they get all this praise, this and that, whoop de whoop whoop, and then you hear about this, something like that. Like, man, well, no wonder you were doing good. Look at what you guys were doing over here, deliberately trying to hurt players to get bonuses. Over here, spying on teams, deflating footballs. Like, come on now.
Yeah, I remember you sent me also a clip of Kurt Warner on his last game
Mm-hmm.
where they just completely destroyed Kurt Warner. One of the dirtiest hits I ever seen, man.
Grimy, bro. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying.
You know what? Maybe that is karma.
Yeah.
Because damn, dude, like I didn't even think about. I forgot about bounty game, man. So
Yeah.
good call. So good looking at on that one, man. I didn't even think about that one.
Just like you said, remember after the Patriots got caught with Spygate and that whole scenario, after that they weren't as good for a couple years. I think they had to readjust to try to get back into the Super Bowl or deep playoff contention.
Yeah, and it was crazy because I remember. Do you remember that hit by Ahmad Brooks on Drew Brees, the one where it made him his neck?
Oh yeah, that was a nasty one. Yeah, but that was a clean hit though.
That was a clean hit, and they if they had won that game, the only reason the Niners lost that game was because of that call, because it gave them an extra possession.
That's bullshit. It was a clean hit.
And then the best part was that the Saints tried to accuse the Niners of targeting. It's like, nice try.
They try to accuse us of targeting, then they end up getting caught with that. Come on now, stop it. Come on now.
So don't project your stuff on us, man.
That's what I'm saying, bro. So
Then,
yeah, I don't really feel bad for them. I think that they've had their chances. They've had plenty of opportunities. They just couldn't seize it. So why should I feel bad for them if I don't feel bad for the Sharks? If I don't feel bad for the Warriors losing that championship, and I don't feel bad for the Niners? If your team don't win, it's because they didn't have enough. They didn't have what it takes to win. Simple as that.
dude, you brought it. Honestly, man, I forgot about the bounty game. Once you brought that up, that was a game changer for me. I was like, you know what, screw that. I don't feel bad.
Nah, I mean it's a heartbreak, I'm sure, to their fans, and just the way it played out, it's a heartbreak. Like that sucks. But then when you remember that they were trying to cheat or they were trying to deliberately hurt players and end their careers possibly early, like nah, I don't feel bad for them.
Nah.
They just made the list because those losses were horrible. So.
And some of them were funny too, because they were always complaining about a call by a referee. It's like if this is how I feel, and this is the same thing with the Niners too.
Everybody
rely on a referee.
Everybody complains about calls though.
Just like you said, everyone complains about calls, but if your reasoning that we lost was because of a call, then something wasn't done right in your execution.
Your team didn't do enough. It's just like Raider fans not letting go of the tuck rule with the Patriots. Yeah, it was a bad call, but if that's the only reason why you lost the game, then your team didn't do enough to win the game in the first place. Get over it. It doesn't matter.
It's kind of like
move on.
It's kind of like that's how I look at the only time I've ever really considered referees interfering or like the league interfering with the game, just like to push a team going over.
Uh-huh.
The only time I've ever considered that was with the 2002 Sacramento Kings.
What happened?
They fouled. The majority of the Kings fouled out, and if you watch the calls, because the Kings were winning that series at one point,
uh-huh,
and the foul calls were so ticky tack. If you breathed on somebody, that was a foul. And a lot of players fouled out in the crucial games towards the end, including I believe also Chris Webber.
Well, then if that's the case, that game was rigged by the mob.
Yeah, I
In
think I
Vegas.
think that was the only time that I could really think about it. But like people go like, man, 2016 was rigged, man. How can LeBron how can LeBron win 3-1? I'm like, do I at the time was I thinking that there was some rigged stuff? Yeah, but then later on when I started thinking logically, I was like, the Warriors just wasted opportunities. Like Harrison Barnes had open shots that he didn't make them. Draymond was stupid trying to hit LeBron in the balls, and he got suspended, and then we lost his production, and we didn't take advantage. We were also hurt. We lost. I think Curry was knee was still bad, and then it was just everything fell apart for them. So I think the ref I think the officiating excuse, I guess you could say,
Mm,
it's just a cop out a lot of times. Like I've learned that in recent years. Like if you're blaming it on the refs, then you got to then that means that your execution is not doing well. But if you're fouling out everybody, then maybe there's something involved with the league there.
yep, some. But anyways,
That's the NBA. And but the one that was it doesn't hit us directly, but it has a current Niner involved. He's the head coach of the Niners. Kyle Shanahan was the 2016 Falcons.
mm-hmm.
28-3. Everybody remembers that. 28-3.
If
Damn.
you're a sports fan.
28-3. The Falcons were up on the Patriots in the 2016 Super Bowl, and Tom Brady came back and won it. It was here when I was like, you know what, he could go down as the greatest because he came back and he actually led the comeback.
Hmm.
I mean, it wasn't. He wasn't like in the past. It was like, oh, he relied on the kicker to do it. Or the defense to do it. He led the comeback, and the drives that he had towards the end of the game. I was like, okay, Brady, gotta give him credit because he's the one that led that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I think that was our fifth Super Bowl. But man, that was a what a comeback, man! 28-3, and then you come back and you win it in the end. What do you think of
That's
that
great.
Super Bowl?
That was a crazy one. Yeah, he definitely deserved that.
He definitely deserved that one. And then that's where we got our head coach from.
Yeah, right.
And then he did. And then I mean, I still believe in Kyle Shanahan, but yeah, he's had some clunkers, man. But I don't blame him for that. I think. What do you think, Joe? Do you think that was unfair to blame him for that loss?
In 2016,
Yeah,
um, I think he takes some of that loss for sure. He takes some of that credit because if your team wins, the head coach is going to get all the credit, right?
yeah,
So if your team loses, you should take some of that credit as well. But it wasn't just him; it was the execution of
yeah.
the team. So
Because he was the offensive coordinator, and he was the one that was putting up points against Belichick defense.
yeah,
But
so
but if you're offensive coordinator, you have no control over the fact that the defense is doing nothing against the Patriots.
not only that, but the head coach makes all the calls to begin with. You know what I'm saying? Like at the end of the day, you as a defensive or offensive coordinator have some say, but the head coach is gonna, if he wants to change it up, he'll change it up.
So he does have some blame for that one, but I don't give him the whole blame. I do give him a more blame for the Niners loss last year though.
Mm-hmm.
He was a head coach this time. Um, so 2002 Giants. What was the reason that we lost, or what was the major reason that we lost? We pulled out our starting pitcher, who was dominating, and gave him the game ball in front of the opposition
Mm-hmm.
in the middle of the game. So 2020 World Series. We're Giants fans, so we automatically root for whoever is playing against the Dodgers. And the Rays, the Tampa Bay Rays, decide, you know what? Analytics say let's pull out this guy, even though he's dominating in an elimination game. So it's worse. An elimination game. So it's win or go home. They decide to pull him out. They decide to pull out Blake Snell, and they lose the game. I get it. I understand that you guys are analytics based over there. I understand that the sabermetrics say after a certain round, a certain amount of times against the lineup, the pitcher is less effective. But these are the playoffs, guys. This is the World Series. It's a different animal. Why would you, if the offense, the opposing offense, the Dodgers offense, who, as much as I can't stand the Dodgers, I have to admit the Dodgers have one of the best teams in the game. If they can't make contact against your pitcher, if they can't make contact, let me repeat that. If they can't make contact, why would you take that pitcher out of the game in a win or go home situation?
That's not a good idea. I mean, so you make some good points with it's the playoffs, right?
Yeah,
Sabermetrics and analytics may matter to a degree, but it's the playoffs. It's a whole different stage. It's a different environment. People are putting in, 200%, not just 100%. They're putting in 200%, right? It's not just that though. It's you can't account for human intuition, human instinct, um, you know, making last second split decisions that can lose or win you the game. Like sometimes you got to just allow a human just to be a human and let them play and stop worrying about the analytic stuff. But
yeah. That was definitely one of those situations. Wouldn't you agree?
yeah, big time. But it is what it is.
That was a heartbreaking one right now, right there.
Big time. And that's not even any of our teams.
That's not even any of our teams, but it affects our biggest rival because they won a World Series for the first time in 3 decades. So, um, you know, that's the end of our like the teams that like or like the biggest heartbreaks that we want to talk about the last 3 decades or so. But it's only fitting that the last team that we talk about is the Cleveland Browns, bro.
Damn. Well, Cleveland Browns haven't struggled for like the past 50 years until this season.
Yep.
They're doing good.
They
Like we
had
said
a,
earlier, I was rooting for them.
and they made the playoffs like in 2002, but they weren't really that effective. This year, man, I think they got something in Baker Mayfield. And I honestly, if the Niners aren't the ones that are winning, I would like to see them. I would like to see them have a championship.
I would like to see the Browns have a championship. I think honestly, I think I've mentioned this before. Browns fans are some of the most loyal fan base ever because their team has sucked forever and they go to every game, dude. Like that's what you do out there. You know what I'm saying?
And they've had some brutal years in recent years too, man. I
What
think
like
they didn't they
horrible
have six
horrible record
months,
losing seasons.
and they were 0-16 one of these years, and then the year. So they had a year where they were like 1-15, and the following year they were 0-16. I mean, that's about as bad as it gets, right?
They got to experience the championship, man. I really want the Browns and the Browns fans to have a Super Bowl, bro.
So we already told you one of the teams that we want to see win in each sport. Who would you like to see win a championship that's battling a drought?
I'm gonna go with the Browns in football. Um, let me see baseball. Feel free to jump in anytime.
For baseball, I would like to see the Cleveland baseball team do it.
Oh, the Indians, they don't do they have a champion? They don't have a championship either?
They had the longest drought of all the
Wow. Cleveland
teams.
has that in baseball and football? Dude, that's
Yeah,
horrible.
yeah,
Yeah, let's go with the Indians too.
yeah. Because I mean the Cubs were there for a few years, but a couple of years ago it was the Cubs and the Indians in the World Series, but the Indians lost and the Cubs won.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
So hopefully the Indians win. So Cleveland, baseball and football, um, and basketball, who I like to see win. Um,
Hmm.
that's a good question on basketball.
We might have to get back to you guys on that one. I
I'm
don't
gonna have
know.
to get back to you on that one because I can't even think about one. I can't think of a big one over there.
In hockey, I like to see the Sharks win, bro.
Sharks.
We need to get a championship. Sorry, we need to
I
get a
want.
champ.
I want to see. I mean, we're biased because we're local, but yeah, we want to see the Sharks win.
I want to see the Sharks win. At least one. Give us one. So that's why I'm like, I feel for the Cleveland fans. They need some championships over there, man. For real.
And for basketball, you know who I actually pick?
Ooh.
Probably the Milwaukee Bucks.
Mm. That's yeah, okay. I see that.
Milwaukee. I would. That would be cool to see them win. Or maybe for my mentor, Chicago Bulls, just because I know he loves Chicago.
Nah, the Bucks.
They have the greatest of all time. It's okay.
Yeah, they're fine. They won 6 championships in like a what 8 year, 7 year span. I think they'll be all right. They can go another 100 years without winning one, and they'll be okay.
That's what happens when you get 2 3-peats in one decade,
Yeah, man. Y'all are good over there.
and you get the greatest player of all time.
Yeah, y'all are good.
Another team that would be cool to see win though would be the Bills, man.
Yeah, no, for
4
sure.
years, us 4 straight years of losing like that, I would like to see them do it.
Yeah, the I hope the Bills get one too.
So I think that pretty much covers our heartbreaks, bro. I think that was a fun episode to talk about. We did a little bit of research on that one. It was kind of crazy to see how much struggle some of these teams had.
Mm-hmm.
Which team do you think? Which team were you surprised in terms of the struggles?
Surprised, huh? I'd have to say I'd have to say the Eagles, bro.
Same here.
Yeah, them 3 NFC championship games and not winning one. Yeah, I have to say the Eagles.
And you know the crazy thing about the Eagles too is that we were talking about the last 3 decades, right? We didn't even talk about the '80s and the '90s.
Oh, I know. Wait, didn't the Eagles win a Super Bowl like not that long ago, like recently?
Yeah, they won in 2017. So congrats.
Yeah.
So that's why. So to
Congrats.
them, congrats for that one because the year that the years that the Niners played the Bengals for the second time,
Mm-hmm.
people were expecting the Eagles to play the Niners
Oh, really?
because I think it was Buddy Ryan came to the it was yeah Buddy Ryan was the coach, and in Chicago they had a game called the Fog Bowl because this big old massive fog came into the field,
Mm-hmm.
and because of that the Bears were able to pull the game out,
Mm.
and it was one of the more like, if you look it up, bro, it's one of the uh most insane scenes that you'll ever see at a game. It was all fog, so you couldn't see any of the defenders that were coming at you. So imagine running in a fog, and then out of nowhere, here comes a defender to like decapitate you.
Oh, damn.
So the people, so I think it was John Madden and Pat Summerall that were calling the game, and they couldn't call anything.
Really? What year was this?
'88. So that was the second year that the second time that the Niners played the Bengals.
Oh, okay.
So it was a divisional round. So that was the round before the Niners played the Bears.
Yeah, yeah.
Bears were able to win that. The Niners had to go to Chicago too, and they played in frigid conditions. So supposedly they were supposed to play the Eagles, but because the Eagles were actually a very good team that year,
Mm.
but people expected them to were actually going to favor them over the Niners. But the next year, the Niners went to Philly, and Montana was getting killed by Reggie White, and Montana was still able to make a comeback in the end and threw like 4 touchdown passes in the end.
That's why Montana's the greatest.
So it's hey man, so like a hat tip to you Eagle fans, man, because you guys put up through a lot, man. You guys had a lot of hard losses through the decades, man.
Hopefully, the Bills and the Browns could come back. Hopefully, Cleveland Indians could come back, win one.
I mean, the
And
Giants got their
hopefully, the
drought over.
Milwaukee Bucks win one.
The Giants got their drought over. The Cubs ended their drought. That one was over 100 years of waiting for a team,
That's crazy.
right? I think the World Series started like in 1905. The Cubs won in 1908, and they didn't want to get it until 2016. So anything could happen, you guys. After the Cubs won, anything could happen.
Or mathematically speaking, you lose enough, you're bound to win one.
You've seen the bottom, you've lost. There's only one way. The only way is up, right?
We're gonna figure out the right equation to make this happen.
Absolutely, you guys. I mean, for those who are so just stick with your team. Don't go suicidal over whether they win or lose either. But
Just have fun, man.
have
It's just
fun with it. Just remember to have fun. Like losing it's not worth losing your life or your own
threatening somebody else's life.
threatening somebody else's life for your own well-being, man. It's all. Just remember that at the end of the day, it's a game.
And if they win or lose, it doesn't really improve your life, but it is fun to watch.
It's fun to watch, but it won't. You won't. You won't die if they lose. You know what I mean? Like you got to remember that. It took me a while to overcome that, but yes, it was. Just remember, that there's limitations to fandom.
Mm-hmm.
Don't lose your mind over it. Just remember, it's a game at the end of the day.
All right, y'all. Thanks for listening.
Dap session Monday, you guys. How about that? 3 weeks in a row, huh, Joe?
Yup.
We'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Take care.
Later, squad.
Happy Valentine's Day.